So when I'm solving a triangle, I need two things. They need to give me two things. We're going to do more of this on Monday, but for now, we're going to just learn what the trigonometric functions are and how to solve it. So if I have a triangle here, and I'm going to draw it twice, and I'm going to call it A, B, C, and the other one A, B, C. Okay. I know that the opposite sides are the lowercase letters of the angle opposite it, right? So what are the lowercase? What side is right here at the bottom on the first guy, right here? What side is that? At the bottom of the first one, little a. And this one over here?
Little b.
Little b, and that must be little c. Same here, little a, little b, little c. So, if I want you to tell me what trigonometric functions are, I'm going to give you some strategies. You can use a separate sheet of paper. You really don't need to, but you can. But let's talk about what SOHCAHTOA is. What different letters do you see on SOHCAHTOA? You have capital letters first. What do you see?
S.
A big S, a big C, and a big T. I want you to look at, you see on your calculator sine, cosine, and tangent, but sine is S-I-N-E, cosine is cosine like that, I-N-E, and tangent. Those what the three capital letters stand for, okay? And what they found in triangles is that they follow certain ratios. I was telling the other crowd that back in my dad's day, he didn't have a calculator. They didn't exist. So he used a slide rule to find cosine, sine, and tangent. And when it was my turn, we had simple calculators, but not these calculators. So we used tables. Like if we want to know the sine of 54 degrees, we went to a table. So what that did is it didn't allow you to have degree measures in decimal. But now you guys have a calculator, you can find anything you want, okay? Because it does it for you. All right, what are the little letters you see? So the A stands for adjacent. And the O, what do you think it stands for? Opposite. And the H is a side that only right triangles have. Hypotenuse.
That's the one. Oh, that's an H.
It's an H.
Looks like
So if I'm asking you to find all the missing parts of a triangle, and I can't use the Pythagorean theorem because they didn't give me two sides, and I can't use 45, 45, 90 because it's not a 45, 45, 90, and they don't give me any other information that I can use, I can use SOHCAHTOA all the time with any information. Any two things, if they give you two things, you're good to go to finding all the other parts of a right triangle with SOHCAHTOA. So I call SOHCAHTOA the thing you use if you have to, if you're not given enough information, okay? You always go to SOHCAHTOA. Just like the quadratic equation was the thing you used to solve a quadratic equation when you couldn't do it an easier way, okay? All right, so SOHCAHTOA, we get these are the formulas. Sine of angle A equals the opposite of A, which is little a, over the hypotenuse, which is C. Do you see that picture why A is the opposite and C is the hypotenuse?
Yes.
Cosine of big A is the adjacent to A. Who's the adjacent to A?
Good question.
B.
B over the hypotenuse. And tangent of A is the opposite over the adjacent. And this is what I do when I get a triangle. I look at that triangle. I said, I'm finding the sine and cosine and tangent of A. I mark my A. And then when I'm marking A, little a would be the opposite, little c would be the hypotenuse, and little b would be the adjacent. Everybody understand what I'm saying? But what happens if I'm talking about big B? I'm going to mark big B, and look what happens. The hypotenuse stays the same. The hypotenuse is always the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is always the hypotenuse. Little b, though, is going to change to the opposite of b, and little a will change to the adjacent. So when you're doing a triangle, you need to make sure that you're looking at the right thing, okay? So if I found the sine of big B, the cosine of big B, and the tangent of big B, anybody want to tell me? The sine of big B is little b over big C, opposite over hypotenuse, 2b. You understand how little b is the opposite of big B? What about the cosine of big B? Somebody else? It is A over C. And what about the tangent of big B? Opposite over adjacent of big B?
B over, no.
B over
A.
A. Now I want you to look at the sine of A and the cosine of B. What do you notice?
They're the same.
They're the same. What about the cosine of A and the sine of B?
Same.
Same. What do you notice about the tangents of both of them?
Different.
How are they different?
Opposite reciprocal.
Not the opposite word, just the reciprocal word. They're the flip, one of the other, reciprocal. So when you have your homework, you have 3 problems to do. Just find the first 3 and then know that the other ones are equal. Look at your notes. You understand? So I'm gonna say something that I'm gonna say a lot. I'm gonna ask you, when you're looking for an angle, what button do you push? When you're looking for an angle, what button do you push? Because you're all gonna say, I didn't get the right answer. I can't find the angle. You have to push the second button. So I'm gonna write this in your notes. Use second button to find the angle.
Is this all just going to be calculator stuff?
A lot of it is, yeah. So I look at this first triangle and I need to find the measurement of angle R. So I need to find this guy right here, right? And they gave me 2 sides. If they had given me angle X, I could find it because the angles in a triangle add up to 180. I know there's a right angle, right? So I could just subtract it. But that's not what they gave me. They gave me the 2 sides. So I have to use SOHCAHTOA. So you're at home, and if you go to my home, I don't have a lot of tools. I have the bare necessities. It's horrible. So let's say I just have 3 tools: a screwdriver, a hammer, and a pair of pliers. SOHCAHTOA is like my house, only has 3 tools. You have to figure out the best tool for the job. So if I want to find angle R, I say, well, what did they give me? They gave me this 16. What is the 16 to R? Is it opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse?
Opposite.
Opposite. I'm going to put a little O there. And what is the 9?
It's adjacent.
The 9 is the adjacent. So now I look at my SOHCAHTOA, my toolbox, and I say, which one of those 3 has an O and an A in it? No, O and an A. Which one? Huh? The TOA. So I know that tangent of angle R is going to equal opposite of R over adjacent of R. Everybody understand that? So what is the opposite of R? On that picture. 16 over 9. But that doesn't tell me an angle. 16 over 9 isn't an angle, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the second button. And I'll do second tan of 16 over 9 equals R. When you think of the second button, it's like who has? Who has a tangent of 16 over 9? R does. In order to do this, you have to hit the second button, but you have to make sure your calculator's in degrees. Ways your calculator gets switched back to radians. Somebody grabs it and does it, messes your calculator up.
They just go.
Or you replace your batteries, or you reset your memory, or somebody resets your memory for you. It automatically goes back to radians. Why is that? Because when you get into higher level maths, you use radians more than you use degrees. So they've had it default onto radians. But for lower level math, we teach degrees, and you need to be in degrees. So before you start a test, make sure you're in degrees. If you start getting 1-point numbers, decimals, and you know you're keying it in right, that's probably the problem. So remember that, okay? Now let's look at the second guy. I still want to find angle R, which is right here. But what is 10 to R? Opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse?
Opposite.
Opposite. And what is the 18?
Adjacent.
The hypotenuse. It's the one opposite the 90. Okay?
Okay.
So Robert, which SOCA or TOA has an O and an H in it? Which one has an O and an H? Thank you, Robert.
No, that was me.
I know. So we're going to use the sign. Sine of R is opposite over hypotenuse, which is 10 over 18. So in our calculators, we're going to put in second sine of 10 over 18. When we're looking for an angle, we have to use the second button, and then you round it to 2 places. Your calculator's already in degrees because you fixed it last time. And what do you get, Rob? Does everybody get 33.74?
Yes.
It's 33.75 if you round it.
We'll round it correctly. It's 7.5 if the third number is above a 5 or above, right?
Yeah.
All right.